Well, welcome everybody to another preview. This time we have another AFC North opponent on the horizon. Also 2-1. Both these teams looking to be 3-1 by the end of the morning, because this is not just your regular Vikings at Steelers game. This game is not going to be played in Pittsburgh. This game, for the first time ever, an NFL game is going to be played in Dublin, Ireland. So that is going to be very exciting for the Ireland fans and just everyone who is visiting Ireland. So to help me preview this game, and I'm very thankful that he could fill in last minute, is someone who I've met before. It was during the Gold Cup, and he's a dire Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Vacant, welcome.
Hey, what's up? How's everything going?
Doing great. So, to get us started, just like always, get everyone, maybe like more, maybe like get to know you a little bit more. Like, how did you become a Pittsburgh Steelers fan?
Yeah, so I guess for some background, it's fairly simple background. Born and raised in Pittsburgh. So lived there for 22 years. 20 minutes away from Heinz Field, and yes, I still call it that. You sure is. Other words won't hear me call it that name. But lived in Pittsburgh. Got to grow up in Pittsburgh. Experienced 2 Super Bowls, which was great, and also a long time ago now. Sense of moved out to Wisconsin, but of course still repping the black and gold. So both looking forward to the first game in Dublin, and also still a little bit unsure about this team, but we'll see how it goes.
Oh, very unsure about this team. And now you said living in Wisconsin now. I just want to highlight. How long have you lived in Wisconsin? And basically, I'm asking only that question because were you living in Wisconsin when Super Bowl 45 happened?
Luckily, I was not, though. I've heard plenty of jokes. I've only been in Wisconsin for about 3 years now.
Okay.
But I've still, when I go out in Steelers gear, I definitely hear a good chunk of Rashard Mendenhall fumbling jabs, like whenever somebody drops a drink.
Oh.
That's the one that sticks out, is somebody spilled a drink and looked right at me. I was like, oh, look, I'm Rashard Mendenhall, which is, like, all right, I can't get that mad, but fair enough.
Yeah, you guys really, because you lost that game, I really had to go through it. Just after going to the NFC Championship game the year before, and then the Packers then winning the Super Bowl. So, that was very hard. And Jacob, yes, I am going live for the morning game tomorrow. So, this Pittsburgh Steelers team, going into this season, what was your expectation, and how are you currently feeling about them right now? So, especially quarterback Aaron Rodgers, he was rumored for both of our teams.
Yep.
Very happy that he went to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So
yeah, I guess just there's a difference between what I expect this season to what I expected the season to look like, and what I expect it to continue to look like, versus what I hoped it would look like. Okay. Taking a look at some of our offseason moves, I think the Aaron Rodgers thing, after we lost the opportunity to re-sign Justin Fields after he went to the New York Jets, which was the move I was really hoping we were going to make. Aaron Rodgers at that point was more or less inevitable after how Russell Wilson finished out last season. It was pretty clear that we weren't going to be keeping him around. And so, as much as we've been on the quarterback carousel recently, it's still an improvement at that position, even if not that much. And then I think there's a couple of other interesting moves. Obviously, the big trade for DK Metcalf, signing him to a big contract, which I think once we get into the actual discussion of performance so far, definitely something to be said there, as well as bring in a couple of people, and then as we got close to the regular season, the trade that still frustrates me because I loved him, but sending Fitzpatrick back to the Miami Dolphins for Jalen Ramsey and Arthur Smith's catnip, Johnny Smith. Again, a whole bunch of moves where it made the team better.
Right.
Maybe losing Najee Harris in free agency was something that kind of saw coming. Trading George Pickens was something that was another one where that was going to come at some point this season, I think, because I don't think this team made enough steps to become a true contender, but this team is better than last year, at least on paper. So at least my expectation was, 10-7, but which again, you're gonna hear what was there, but at least, my hope for the season is more than 10 wins or less than 7, because we've been stuck in this carousel of drafting in the early to mid 20s, ammo to really make a difference. I do think that what we did in the draft this year I was very happy about. I was lucky to be in attendance when we took Derek Harmon, and was very relieved that we did not take a certain quarterback who is now on Cleveland's bench. But overall, I think coming into the season, it was definitely like a cautious outlook because of how Aaron flamed out in New York, because there wasn't really any forward move. We had a young O-line, we had that defense, but it had some question marks, especially towards the end of the year. And it was definitely, I'm still very much in a spot where my faith in how this team could perform based on the scene is definitely a little bit shaky.
It's a little shaky. And obviously you've been in this, like you said, this carousel, this 9-8 carousel, and in just mediocrity. And you said more than 10 wins or less than 7 losses. Are you leaning to Luke is saying right now this is gonna be Tomlin's first losing season? Do you agree with that take, or I don't know? I mean, I know it's been 3 games, but is it hard to, or would you say it's hard to judge right now? Because
with Tomlin teams, it's just hard to judge. I mean, this is the guy who had an over 500 record with a duck and a reindeer a couple years ago with Devlin Hodges and Mason Rudolph at quarterback. So I think it's hard to bet against that it will be Tomlin's first losing season. But through 3 games, you look at the Steelers and say, oh, they're 2-1. This season's been going decently well to start. But when you look at the opponents that we've played in the Jets, the Seahawks, and the Patriots, and especially the way that we've played, which has been ugly. The defense hasn't been up to par with the most expensive unit in the league. The offense really hasn't gotten going. The O-line has seemed to regress a little bit. This is a team that could just as easily be 0-3 as they are 2-1 right now.
Fair.
So I think this is one of the better chances because of how poorly the Steelers team has played out the gate for this to be Tomlin's first losing season, but I certainly wouldn't put money on it.
Oh yeah. I sort of thinking the same thing. That last week against the Patriots, the Patriots on paper to me looked much better than the Steelers. But the Patriots just fumbled it away. Like you said, there's a lot of things that could have changed, like in that Jets game. Jalen Ramsey doesn't make that play. Maybe they just go down the field and and win the game. But yeah, also, but I think I predicted before this season they would go 10-7. They could maybe do that. I don't know. But putting it, are you saying you're going, all, is this like all your version of all in, or
it's not all in, but it's not Jerry Jones all in.
okay?
It's like it is somewhere in the middle where I see Jacob mentioned in chat. Yeah, this Steelers haven't won a playoff game since 2017, and we haven't really. There's been a couple of moves here and there where, all right, we're picking up a couple of pieces, but we're not necessarily making a full-on push, and maybe, spending some of the resources on one-year deals when we have a good chunk of salary cap space, as we did coming into this year, and clearly weren't a complete team. Clearly weren't a complete team, especially at the end of last year, when we really collapsed to end the season. So it is an all-in that could result in a rebuild, but it's not like, hey, we're making a 3-year commitment on a bunch of players or a 4-year commitment on a bunch of players, with the exception of DK Metcalf, who up to this point really hasn't performed that contract. We've definitely seen some solid moments, but he hasn't been a big kind of explosive downfield target. It's been more get the ball to him, let him do his thing. And so I think that's going to be, again, it's going to be interesting to watch this team as it continues on, because if they keep playing like they have, I think the bigger concern is the fans getting all out of just like, all right, yeah,
right.
we've chanted for heads and it worked, so it might start again.
And if, let's just say, Luke is right and Tomlin does have his first losing season, was that going to be the point where like Tomlin overall, I do think he is like, he's still like he's a solid coach, but like, what is your, I don't know, I know there's a lot of Steelers fans have their own opinion about Mike Tomlin, but what would it take for you to be like, okay, I don't know how long has he been the coach for? I'm trying to remember, like
since I think 2008,
somewhere around there.
I think he took over in 2008, and then 2009 was the Super Bowl against Arizona.
Okay. What would it take? Yeah, but against Arizona, 2007. Oh, 2007. It looks like
2007. Gotcha.
So, what would it take for you to be like, yeah, I've had enough of Mike Tomlin, or are you already there? So
I am very close to that, to the point of, if Tomlin got fired tomorrow, and it would, so if Tomlin got fired tomorrow, it would make sense to me. Since 2017, we've really been the same team every year, because it's not only the same kind of approaches, it's the same faults. Tackling is a concern. The offense not necessarily working at 100%, and we've seen a bunch of offensive coordinators come through. We've seen a bunch of defensive coordinators come through. Again, I think we're up, since Ben retired, we're up to, I think, 6 or 7 quarterbacks that have started at least one game over the, I think it's 7, or actually it might be 7 or 8 over the past, I guess, or no, I think it's closer to 6. Somebody can fact check me in chat. But we've changed all these things. We changed it for Matt Canada to get fired. That happened. There were disagreements with how, with some of the defensive scheming. So there's been coaches that have come in and out there. But all these things have changed, and yet we're still basically the same team. As a Steelers fan, we can turn the game on, and within the first couple of drives, we can say, all right, this is probably how this game is going to go. And if, sitting on our couches at home, we can say, oh yeah, this is the game plan. This is how they're going to counter it. This is how they're going to, try and get some of it together. Then I think that's a massive concern. And that's not to say that I think Tomlin is a bad coach. I think it's just, and I've seen the comparison in a couple spots to Andy Reid in Philadelphia, where a change for both parties, I think, would be very beneficial. Just because, there has been, at this point, it's like, hey, you talk really highly about Justin Fields in the draft. We went and got him. And then, Russell Wilson was hurt to start the year. Put in Justin Fields. He didn't light it up, but he didn't make a ton of mistakes. So that was kind of the reasoning behind switching to Russell Wilson. Russ was good for 6 games. Last 6 games, he started to fall apart, and it was like, all right, we're not going to even take a gamble with Fields. And now it's like, we got Rodgers, and it's again, largely the same thing. We're just, I don't know if it's just being too safe and, trying to be like, all right, the target is a 500 record, and that's it. But I'm not really sure. And Jacob, that is not correct. They won against the Cardinals after that.
Yeah, they won the Cardinals after that one.
Yeah.
And do you think that, I guess that was 2000. That was 2000.
I think it was 2008, 2009.
2008 season.
Yep.
So do you credit that to, like, I don't know, like, I mean, so yeah, and he he turned it around really quickly, or unless, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, or do you think like Bill Cowher had like some influence, like had some help in that toward the end, or like
So I wouldn't argue Bill Cowher as much. The person who I would credit even more with that would be Dick LeBeau, who was that defensive coordinator for the Steelers for so many years. Really was the heart of those defenses, and had really good schemes there. And that's, again, not to say that Tomlin is a bad coach. He doesn't have moments where he's good, but you can look to, Dick LeBeau stepping away as that kind of moment where the tackling issues, they're like, hey, we're just going to run a bunch of soft zones started to creep in, and, see a whole bunch of these other aspects. And while that Super Bowl in 2009 still had large parts of that same roster from when we beat Seattle, there were plenty of pieces there and plenty of parts of the game plan where there were definitely those Tomlin aspects to them. And so as much as it's, hey, that Super Bowl is definitely Mike Tomlin's, I don't think you can ignore Dick LeBeau's effect on the Steelers in those championship runs.
All right. Yeah, that's a good perspective into that. So talking about the Steelers now, obviously the main staple for, I would just say, the Steelers for many years has been that defense. And I don't know what has happened this year, or I mean, or what is there just some, why is it not clicking, at least as of right now? Because
yeah. So on the defensive side of the ball, so I think there's multiple things to keep in mind here. I think against the Jets, I think that Jets run game, especially against us, and that week one, took advantage of a weakness that we showed against the Ravens, where it's, hey, we can get really torched by that option run game, especially when it's some guys with speed, which does have me concerned for when we face Baltimore later in the year. But that's a point in and on its own. And I think you can really kind of break down some of the defensive issues into 2 parts. I think that on the back end, I think that the secondary has not necessarily improved as much as we may have hoped. We definitely brought in some good veteran support. Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay are definitely some solid pieces to have. And obviously we have Joey Porter Jr. in there as our CB1. And then, have some of the safety help, but again, not having Minkah Fitzpatrick back there is definitely, a bit of a loss. And we've definitely had some attrition issues there. Joey Porter Jr. Hopefully should be back this week. I believe he's questionable right now, but especially as a guy to try and lock down, in this case, either Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison, depending on who they have him line up against at different points, and just kind of how that game plan plays out. We've also been down one of our other safeties from the Eagles, whose name is
I got the injury report out here right now.
Deshaun Elliott.
And he's looking like he's gonna play. He has no injury
so that's
designation.
But not having those guys, be at full strength was definitely a big loss. Especially because when you have, a Jalen Ramsey, a Darius Slay, a Juan Thornhill, trying to go, in some cases man-on-man or even track guys through zone, they aren't necessarily as quick as they were. They can still have some of those wily plays. We've seen Jalen Ramsey, had a big breakup to ice the game against the Jets, had a nice pick against Seattle. But again, there's still these moments where, you'd want somebody playing tighter in zone against wide receivers, against tight ends. And that just isn't happening, whether that's down to scheme, whether that's down to speed. I am not really sure at this point. I would need kind of one more game to be able to say, all right, get these couple of guys out, elevate a couple of guys from the practice squad, put different guys in there. This just isn't working. But on that front, I'm not really sure. The flip side of that is our front seven, which on paper I think should help to counteract that, because I think having a secondary that isn't necessarily as quick, isn't going to be able to play coverage quite as tight for quite as long, could be counteracted by having a very good pass rush. And I think we're very deep at linebacker. We're incredibly deep at edge. I think some of the defensive tackle additions, obviously with Cam Hayward, we took 2 defensive tackles in this draft, in Derek Harmon out of Oregon and Yaya Black out of Iowa, who, Derek Harmon was injured to start the year. He picked up his first sack last week, so hopefully he can get off to a start. Alex Highsmith has been injured for a little bit as well.
He's the only one that is listed as out right now.
And he didn't make the trip, so Alex Highsmith is the lone one that I know of off the top of my head that is out. But we just ultimately haven't been getting a lot of pressure, and that is definitely a concern on the defensive side of the ball, especially against the pass. TJ Watt really got shut out of the game the first 2 weeks, and so that wasn't great to see. And then elsewhere, again, having Highsmith out takes away another really good edge rush piece. And again, it's still a matter of hey, there are these extra pieces here where again, the entirety of our outside linebacking core kind of slips my mind right now. But again, it's another group that's very, very deep, but they're not necessarily those top 2 guys. And so if TJ Watt isn't producing at that level, then I think that's a major concern. Something that I have seen us doing specifically over the past 2 games, and I think in kind of response to some of the injury problems that we haven't seen in past years, is TJ Watt is actually getting moved around a little bit more pre-snap. So sometimes he'll be coming off the quarterback's right. We started seeing him come to the left. We started seeing him do stunts here and there, given some different blitz looks. And then there's always and then TJ Watt can also, drop back, play a little bit coverage as needed. So I think will definitely be interesting to see there. And then I think, kind of going in between the two, the linebacking core, Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen, the two main
Yeah.
guys you'll be seeing there. Just again, haven't necessarily been playing great. Stopping the run has been a major concern, and definitely something that I think especially with Peyton Wilson, because I think Patrick Queen you'd have more as kind of a lurker, as a lurking player. You'd have Peyton Wilson trying to go and try and get the running back. Definitely some concerns there. So it's a multitude of factors that have kind of gone into why this defense, specifically in the yards game, hasn't been up to scuff.
Oh, well, okay. And we will see how they do against the Vikings, who, while they did score 48 points, I will admit, it was against the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Bengals, as we know, they do not have a good defense. And I remember talking to Steph last week and before the game, like, okay, it's a little better than last year. I don't know. I mean, they did turnover the ball a lot, so a lot of short yard situations. So
yeah, and I think talking about the Steelers defense, I mean, I think the good thing to see last week was the sacks and the turnovers against the Patriots. Right. I think we'll get to the offensive side of the ball in a second, but being able to force those plays has been a large part of the Steelers' kind of defensive identity. And especially in recent years, this defense has been kind of feast and famine on that, where, hey, if those sacks and those turnovers aren't on the board, then the opposing offense generally has a pretty good day. And I think that's hard to do with TJ Watt, with Cam Hayward, Alex Highsmith when he's healthy, bearing down on your quarterback. And I think there's maybe something to be said of can we get stops outside of that? Can we force more 3 and outs, especially against a team like the Vikings, who not only are very deep, especially at the skill positions.
Yeah. Jordan Addison returning, by the way, this week. So,
but have also shown that, hey, when given those opportunities, they can capitalize on those mistakes by the opposing offense.
Right.
And so, again, that's definitely something that gives me a little bit of concern coming in.
A little bit of concern. Now, I guess switching to the offensive side, the Steelers offense, I mean, they put up a pretty good. I mean, after week 1, I'm like, I was getting so much like, I was seeing social media like the Vikings should have got Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was lighting up the Jets, and then I see these next 2 weeks, the following weeks, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, how do you see this offense right now? Because there's definitely been that high of week 1, and then obviously, not at. I mean, you haven't gotten to that level of back to that level yet. But how do you see? I mean, that Seahawks game especially was a little rough with Rodgers. With, turn over the ball a couple times. I don't know if I'm trying to think. I can see. He turned over the ball once against the Patriots. I mean, I guess he had. Well, he didn't even throw for that much. Interesting compared to the Seattle game, but I guess that makes sense because you were down against Seattle, had to catch up. But how would you grade this offense right now?
I mean, as of right now, again, you have that game against the Jets where I think some of the sack numbers were concerning. I think Roger Jones, who made the switch this offseason from right tackle, where he's played the past 2 years, to the left with the departure of Dan Moore to the Tennessee Titans, that there were definitely some concerns there in the pass game. But at least, again, on paper, that game was, we were very efficient through the air, had a couple of nice big plays. But at least watching through that, a lot of those Aaron Rodgers throws were to pretty open receivers, were to
Mhm.
coverages that weren't all that great. And so again, you can talk about, hey, maybe that's a scheming thing, offensively or defensively, where that comes up. But I think definitely important to note that yes, Aaron Rodgers put up a whole bunch of touchdowns, uh, but there definitely were some concerns. Offensive line blocking was big. I believe we gave up 4 sacks to the Jets,
Mhm.
and then the run game was a big concern as well after that first week because that never really got going. And
Right.
moving into week 2 and week 3, a lot of those concerns continued. I think when you're looking at this Steelers team, you have to start with the offensive line, which for offensive lines around the league is still very young. Our center, our right guard, and our right tackle are all only in their second year,
Mhm.
with them all being last year's draft class. Trey Fatano at right tackle didn't get a whole lot of snaps last year either, but both Mason McCormick and Zach Frazier at guard and center were looking pretty good, especially towards the back end of last year.
Mhm.
And then you have a third-year left tackle in Broderick Jones, where this is going to be his first full season playing on that side of the football. And then your left guard, Isaac Sayumalo, a bit more tenured in the league and kind of the leader of that group. But they just generally have not played very well. You know, pass protection, I feel like Aaron Rodgers has generally come under a lot of pressure when he's not getting the ball out really quick.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there's definitely some credit that deserves to be given to the kind of first 2 D lines that we played, because the front
Mhm.
seven of the Jets, the front seven of the Seahawks are 2 very good units.
They are.
But especially, there was an expectation that this unit would take a step forward this year, especially since, towards the end of the last season, Zach Frazier looked like one of the best centers in the league. Um, you know, Mason McCormick at guard. Again, you were hoping that he'd take a jump up in his sophomore year, but we just haven't seen that. And I think that's definitely concerning when you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers who doesn't have a lot of mobility anymore. Like you'll see a couple of plays where, hey, maybe you get the pocket moving a little bit early and he can keep rolling. Um, but ultimately, if that pocket starts to collapse, plays are going to collapse. You're not going to get the ability to extend plays that you would with Justin Fields, or arguably even Russell Wilson still has some of that mobility still there in comparison
Right.
to Aaron Rodgers. You can make arguments about their play in the field and all that, but at least in terms of mobility. And the big thing that we expected coming into the season was the run game to be a factor, and it
Yes.
really hasn't. We've only averaged about 60 rushing yards per game so far this season,
Mhm.
which not what
Yeah.
I expected with Jalen Warren becoming the running back 1, brought in Kenneth Gainwell, drafted Caleb Johnson, who, I'll have a word about him in a second. But the running game just never really has found any momentum. And we'll give it to Jalen Warren. He'll have a play or two in there where he'll break out and he'll be able to pick up a ton of yards. And we'll have a play or two here and there where just all right, it's an inside zone look where
Mhm.
everybody's just blocking straight forward, not pulling any guards, not pulling any tackles. And even in 2 tight end sets, we're not really getting any penetration. We're not opening up any holes.
Mhm.
And that's a concern when you have kind of as deep a tight end group as we do. Pat Fryermuth, Darnell Washington, Johnny Smith, and Connor Hayward is really like a 4-headed tight end room who kind of fulfills all of the roles that you kind of be looking. You got a possession guy, you got a blocker, you got a vertical threat, and you got kind of a utility player, all in that tight end room, and could all be used in a whole bunch of different ways. But again, we're just not seeing that quite as much. I think coming into the season, the wide receiver room was a big question. You got DK Metcalf in there, who was kind of coming in as the headliner, but the battle for wide receiver 2 was kind of up in the air. I think Calvin Austin has really secured that. We really haven't seen any Roman Wilson at all so far this year, coming
Mhm.
off his injury as a rookie last year. which is a little bit disappointing. And then the tight ends getting involved a little bit in the pass game. I think Jonnu Smith is up there is the leader among that group in targets.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
Unless and you want to give any comments about him while you're at it. So
yeah, I mean, and what I want to see from Arthur Smith more as this season goes on is more attacking deep and more attacking the middle of the field. We've seen like a little bit of slant work where, again, it's kind of Aaron Rodgers firing very quickly, or, see a couple of, A routes deep, but a lot less than we have in years past. A large part of that pass game is, hey, we're going to try and scheme up a screen. We're going to hit DK Metcalf or Jonnu Smith or Jalen Warren in the flat or on a screen and just kind of have them make plays. And that has worked at times. And I think, something that kind of highlights that, and especially Jalen Warren is a player to keep an eye on the Steelers offense, is Jalen Warren is our current rushing yards and receiving yards leader through 3 games. And a lot of that, and I think, pretty much all of those receiving yards are the run after catch. So, I think if you're looking at the Steelers for an X factor on offense, it is going to be Jalen Warren. And so it's a question of, can the run get established? If that's not the case, okay, is the pass game going to then compensate for a run game? And how will the Steelers kind of adapt from there? Adapt to a Vikings defensive pressure and secondary that showed a vast amount of potential after last week's game against Cincinnati.
Yeah. So against this Vikings defense, only person who's out is Andrew Van Ginkel, which you said you're getting receiving yards to Jalen Warren. You're lucky that Andrew Van Ginkel's not in, because I don't know if you've seen him, but he's good at reading those screens and took one. The one to the house against Aaron Rodgers wasn't a screen, but like if you like the Giants, for example, and he had other attempts last year. So you're lucky to not have that problem this Sunday.
Yep.
We have. I would say most of our roster is healthy. Harrison Smith returned last week. He assisted with a tip to Isaiah Rodgers. And I imagine him, or maybe, Brian Murphy technically is the cornerback one, but I would not be surprised if Isaiah Rodgers got more looks for DK Metcalf. So that's going to be interesting to see how that's gonna go. And then also, let me see, Dallas. For us, it's gonna be more Dallas Turner, just because with Andrew Van Ginkel not being in. So how do you? Brian Flores likes to blitz a lot, and of course, you would be familiar with Brian Flores. I'm talking. I'm like, oh yeah, yes, yeah. Of course, you'd be familiar with Brian Flores. Do you think, I don't know if that's like maybe an advantage, or do you have like an idea of what Brian Flores is probably gonna do, or you think you've seen? I don't know. Or you think maybe like change it up a bit? Like, did he do a lot of, like, I don't know how, I didn't pay too much attention in Pittsburgh how he did with the defense, but how would you do you think?
I think it's fairly kind of a neutral kind of situation there. I think if you're game planning for this, you just kind of have to go off of film from what you've seen so far this year from the Vikings defense. When you are looking at that game plan, again, of course, we do have familiarity. Brian Flores did come in and was one of our assistants before he headed up to Minnesota. So having some familiarity there is nice, but at the end of the day, you're going to see different players, different deployments, and
Right.
at the end of the day, you still have to be able to execute your own game plan. And especially when you have a guy like Isaiah Rogers, who had an incredible game last weekend.
Yeah.
That's going to be something to keep an eye on. And then Javon Hargrave is a player at defensive end that we're familiar with up here. We get that kind of blitz heavy look is something that coming in I think will be a concern because some of the offensive line woes that we've had. Again, maybe that is then a solution of, all right, we're gonna lean into that quick pass game a little bit more.
Right. I was thinking about that.
Again, set up our wide receivers to make plays. Get the ball to DK Metcalf, have him be able to take off, explode down the sideline.
Right.
Hit Jonnu Smith with a screen. Hit Pat Fryermuth with just kind of a quick release up the seam. Can hit Darnell Washington in the flat and have him kind of use his size to get players. So there's ways to deal with that pressure.
Right.
And then once you get into the game plan of, well, he's going to plan around our plan, so now we have to plan around his plan around our plan. And once it gets to that point, it just, you have to be able to execute, if not what you're good at, then what you intend to be good at. Whether that's, all right, we got to find, again, rhythm with the run game, rhythm with a quick pass game to try and, cause the defense to stop that a little bit. And then that can open up running opportunities. You have to stay very fluid against the blitz. Watched the Pitt Panthers play. Louisville Cardinals today, and Louisville did a great job dealing with that pressure. Pitt is also a very blitz-heavy team. You'll see a lot of rush 6, drop 5. The way that Louisville countered that was, hey, we're going to have a whole bunch of quick hitch routes, hit him quickly, he'll pick up 10 yards as the defenders all drop back to not get burned deep, and then just kind of keep going with that. So it is going to be an interesting chess match, but I think it's, again, knowing that Brian Flores does blitz so much and that the defense was able to force so many mistakes last week definitely gives me a lot of pause coming into what has been a pretty sloppy offense.
Right. And do you think that's going to be the key thing we're going to be looking at, or is it going to, or like, I know a lot of people maybe I don't know if they're overlooking the Carson Wentz is going to be a second game versus that defense. Is that going to be like more just to I don't know. I mean, is that going to be like a good, I don't know. Is that going to be more of what you're going to lean? I mean, you're going to try to lean on. I mean, I know the defense hasn't. I mean, you're like you said, like the defense, obviously, first 3 weeks, but they're gonna get better. But you think this is going to be more? You're going to lean on that defense, or you're going to rely on the offense? Going to try to you're going to rely on the offense in that quick pass game, or I don't know. I mean,
yeah. So I think the key factor for both teams, especially this early in the season, is going to be turnovers. Both these teams last year, I think Minnesota and Pittsburgh last year were tied for the league lead in total turnovers across 17 games. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, and that maybe just pulled out of left field. But turnovers are going to be the key factor in this game.
Okay.
In the absence of turnovers, I think it is the bigger matchup will be the Pittsburgh defense against the Minnesota offense.
Okay.
I think Carson Wentz showed that when given opportunities, he could get the job done last week. Again, that Cincinnati unit is still very questionable, but you can't scoff at a team that puts up almost 50 points in an NFL contest as oh, it was just turnovers. No, you still have to execute even in those short field situations. The Steelers showed that last week
Right.
against the New England Patriots. So at least coming into this game, you cannot overlook Carson Wentz as quarterback because of all the weapons he has at his disposal. Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, the return of Jordan Addison, who I was lucky enough to watch for a couple of years when he was a Pitt Panther before transferring to USC. Got to see him win the Boletnikoff Award, catching passes from Kenny Pickett. There are going to be opportunities for this Minnesota offense because the Steelers very much play in it, or if not play, then attempt to play in a bend don't break style. It's going to be all right. You're going to get some chunk plays here and there, but once it gets deep into the red zone, that's going to be when we're going to really start to dial stuff up, try to get stops, and against against a very high skilled wideout opposition, especially when your secondary isn't completely healthy. That's going to be the matchup to watch. I think if Joey Porter Jr. Is healthy, I think that the Steelers have a much better chance at that, just because Joey Porter Jr. is prone to penalties. So I expect to see one or two in there, especially if he's not at full health, just trying to stick with either Jordan Addison or Justin Jefferson. But that's going to be the main battle to watch. I don't think you can ignore the Steelers offense against the Vikings defense just because, hey, if it's just, all right, I'm going to turn the game off and turn it back on when the Vikings offense and Steelers defenses are back out on the field. Because the Steelers offense does have the potential to make plays. They just haven't done it with enough consistency for me to say, even despite some of these Steelers defensive struggles to start the year, that's not going to be the matchup to watch, especially after picking up 5 turnovers, 5 sacks against the New England Patriots.
Right. Yeah. Both of our teams getting 5 turnovers. And you were correct, by the way, with that tying for takeaways last year, both with 33 takeaways. So
memory is sometimes reproductive. That time it wasn't. Or reconstructive, not reproductive. I don't remember the quote.
Wow. But and obviously there is the little X factor here of the thing that we're sort of ignoring, the international aspect of all of this. Obviously, this is not in Heinz Field. Yes, and yes, just like you, I still call it Heinz Field.
Thank you.
I cannot. I will never pronounce. I will never do that acro whatever. I can't. If I can't pronounce it that well, I'm not even gonna call it that. And I like Heinz Field. I just like the historic aspect of it. But it's not going to be in Pittsburgh, obviously. And but I know that the from the Rooney family, has roots in Ireland. Do you think though that you're gonna get close to a home field advantage? I don't know if or whatever you've been seeing, or because I don't even have an idea, because I'm not even 100% sure what the crowd turnout is going to be, the split. So do you think the whole just the whole international aspect, not having a true 100% home field advantage is going to play a factor into that, or in the time change and the time clocks? I've been seeing that in the side chat that there has been mention of about that. So how's that going to all factor?
Yeah, so I know at least speaking to the Rooney's kind of Irish heritage. I do want to point out real quick that if you did not see it kind of pop through, Steelers had a nice little touch kind of yesterday for a practice. Was all the players had Gaelic translations of their last names on the back of their jersey. So if you're in chat and you haven't gotten a chance to see that, you stay here until the end of the stream. But after that, definitely go check that out, because I think that was obviously a really nice touch.
Very nice.
I think speaking to the jet lag, I think that jet lag certainly was a concern in our last international game, because I believe we did play in one of the London games. It was a while
Yes, we
ago.
did. I
It was,
remember that
I
game.
think it
I mean,
was,
I wasn't gonna say
yeah,
anything, but I remember we both. I mean, obviously, I remember we both started 0-3 that
yep.
season, and that was a pretty crazy game. I remember we went up and we had like I remember it was Matt Castle and Greg Jennings, and we still had and then that was Adrian Peterson, and we had a big lead, and then you started coming back, and then at the end of the game, Jared Allen was at third and goal, strip sacked Ben Roethlisberger, and we won the game. And yeah, so
Hmm.
so and that was a very higher scoring game, 34-27. And
Yep.
so, and I know like Luke is saying, oh, it's gonna be like 9-6, but I think it's proven that it it's not necessarily gonna it doesn't necessarily have to be uh, a lower scoring game. It could
Yeah.
potentially be, maybe middle of the road type of game, or maybe if both. I don't know if you can figure if that quick game goes very well, this could potentially be like a higher scoring game.
Yeah.
So
And so I do think jet lag it could be a factor. We'll see just how much. Like, that's not something you can really clock until game time. Um, I think that there are definitely, there's concerns there. I've seen, I know the Steelers tried to head out a little bit earlier. The league said no, I believe just for competitive advantage reasons, trying to get both teams in on the same day, which
I
I guess,
mean, you're the home team. You should have. I mean, it's been done before. It's been done
yeah.
before where the team has left. The home team has left earlier, so we will
Um,
left on the same day.
so, there may be some sort of concern going on there. So I don't know. At least in terms of it not being a home away from home game, on that front, I'm not super concerned just generally about most away games. Steelers are lucky enough to be a franchise that typically travels very, very well all over the place. You'll generally see a good chunk of terrible towels at every away game.
Right.
But I know, at least from what I have seen from a lot of reporting, there definitely have seemed to be a lot of Steelers fans. We're gonna have to wait until kickoff at about 8:30 Central tomorrow morning as to just what the fan split is. We'll have to see if it's it could be similar to the London game where, hey, there's definitely a good chunk of the home and away team, but you'll see plenty of other jerseys mixed in there, which is more what I'm expecting.
Right.
But again, with how well the Steelers travel, with the kind of Roonies having roots in Ireland, we'll see if that all plays a factor. But at the end of the day, it's just going to be a matter. It's going to be cool to witness either way. The fan atmosphere, especially for the first NFL game over in Dublin.
Over in Dublin. And like, there's nothing. And is there like any part of you that wishes this could have been in Pittsburgh, or are you just like happy to have the opportunity to be playing in this first Ireland game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to international games. I think that actually with a 17 game season, you're in a really good scenario if you're the league, if you're Roger Goodell. And I actually saw like an ESPN post on this earlier today where, hey, if you have 8 home games, 8 away games, and 1 neutral site game where the home team is just the home team at that point is kind of arbitrary, but you still keep that same competitive scenario of 8 home, 8 away properly. Then I think that's a great scenario to be in, where you give international fans the opportunity to attend games. You give them more opportunities to attend games of their team.
Right.
And from there, it's just, hey, it's a good opportunity, and it is the first game in Dublin, but it's one of 17, and you got despite where, it doesn't matter where it's played, just matter how it's played, matters the score once the clocks hit 0.
Oh, that's a fair statement. I'm like, I like international games as well to spread, and the NFL around the world. I think it's like a mixture of trying to get the fans, from those places a chance to see their own team there, and it's also like I also see it as like okay, like there's also maybe like some tourism aspect to it, because there is also that influx of Americans who are experiencing these places for the first time. So sort of, I think it's sort of a mixture of both, because I know there's supposed to be like a lot of people flying into the game. So like my preference would be like, okay, give the home fans, this amount of time, like they can only get the tickets first, and then after a certain amount of time, then you can let the out of market uh, get them, because I mean I don't know like what the exact breakdown of it is of actual Irish or European going to be at that game versus Americans flying in, but that's just something that I would personally like to see a little tweak to in terms of get to ticket wise. So
Mhm.
yeah. So and we get to and we get the luxury of playing back to back Europe games. So that's going to be an interesting time. And we got to play your other AFC North rival. Well, I don't know if you say rival.
They're rivals. They're just pity rivals.
They're just
I
petty
will take
rivals.
every opportunity to talk down to Ohio and Maryland as possible. Ohio is pity, Maryland is hate. So
Maryland is hate. Is
yeah,
all of now, but Cincinnati? Do you consider like? Would you say that's a little bit more though hate, or like or is that still the same amount of pity as Cleveland's?
I mean, so I feel like it definitely varies. Baltimore is number one.
Well, obviously,
Baltimore's over on its own as number
yeah,
one, and
100.
then
percent
with I feel like especially recently, Cincinnati has definitely been um, the game with more stakes,
hmm
especially since Cleveland is
Yeah,
Cleveland.
yeah,
But I would probably in terms of divisional animosity, I think it's for the Steelers. It's Baltimore, Cincinnati, Cleveland in terms of leveling them. Um,
okay,
at least for me, I think that might change from fan to fan. Obviously, you had the big brawl with Myles Garrett, and it's not to say that hey, the Browns aren't a heated rivalry. They definitely are a heated rivalry, but it depends. And there are times where hey, Browns go up above Cincinnati, but
oh, Browns actually like what? Would you just say the last time the Browns moved was when Baker Mayfield beat you in the wild card rounds?
yeah, what was it? Yeah, that was definitely getting up there. That's probably the biggest. It's that and the helmet incident
The
were
helmet
probably the
incident.
two. Um,
Yeah.
but it was definitely up there. But again, just
hmm
looking to try to get better ourselves at this point.
Yeah, we're just looking at focusing um on ourselves, trying to at the end of the day, all you need to do at the end of the day, winning is the end goal for every week. Want to know every week. And right now we're both in a position to possibly go 3-1. Um, Now, how you think this game is going to go, I don't know. Are you very optimistic about this game? Do you like the Steelers' chances to win this game?
So at least going into this, I don't have a lot of optimism in the Steelers. And again, I think
Okay.
that's very skewed after this past week and the dichotomy that you saw uh, between both teams. I think you saw the defenses. Both defenses made plays, was able to force mistakes, were able to force turnovers, were able to get pressure, were able to do a decent job at holding back. Offenses that aren't clicking at necessarily 100%. The difference was what both teams did with those mistakes, what they did with those with those turnovers.
Right.
That was the big difference. With Minnesota, obviously you had Isaiah Rodgers scoring
Yeah.
14 points in that one. Definitely a big swing. But at the end of the day, if you are able to capitalize off of those mistakes, or if you have a team that is shown that they can capitalize off those mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
then that's the team I'm generally going to side with. And I don't think the Steelers have me at a point right now where I'm confident enough to say, hey, this defense has been performing at a high enough level, or this offense has been consistent enough to say, hey, I think the Steelers have a good shot here. I think the Steelers going into any game have a decent opportunity to win. That's one of the benefits of having a Mike Tomlin coach team is that
Mm-hmm.
they can play up to competition, but they also can play down to competition. And so it's kind of a roll of the dice as to which team you get every week. And so you'll have to again just see where it is after those first couple of drives on both sides of the ball
Right.
as to where it pans out. At least in terms of how the game's going to play out, I think Minnesota's going to have a very good share of offense. I think just based on what we've seen so far, I think Jordan Mason's going to have a pretty good day at the office. I know that Minnesota run game has been pretty solid to open up the year. Haven't watched necessarily a ton of Vikings. I know I watched Vikings Bears week 1, which was
we've been on primetime the first two weeks.
gotcha.
So yeah.
That Vikings Bears game was one of the games of all time.
I mean, there was a lot of games of all time that week.
Yeah.
We didn't even like crack maybe even like top 3 or whatever. I mean, we tried to top. We couldn't really top Bills Ravens, but that fourth quarter we tried to make it as much as we could. So
but I think that Jordan Mason is definitely going to be a key player to keep an eye on. He's given up 100 yards or more of rushing each of these first 3 games. We've given up a 100-yard rusher in 2 of them against the Jets and against the Seahawks. Against the Patriots, they didn't have an individual 100-yard rusher, but as a team, I believe they rushed for 100 yards at a clip of like 3.5 to 4 yards a carry. So they still had some production there. So Jordan Mason is going to be the big thing. I think you'll see T.J. Hawkinson play a pretty good part. Again, with Jordan Addison still coming in, he'll be getting back up to speed. But I think, again, when you have a 1-2 punch of Addison and Jefferson, I think you'll see a couple of big chunk plays there. So I think, I find myself flip-flopping between this being either a really high-scoring game or a really low-scoring game, just depending on which side of the ball is going to win out. I know I have seen the Vikings favored. I could probably pull it up on ESPN right now. I think the last number that I saw was Vikings by 3.5. Was the most recent kind of spread that I saw.
It was somewhere around there.
And I do like that. I think my current look is my immediate reaction is Vikings 31, Steelers 27. Because I think the Vikings have, especially through 2 weeks, I think that first game against the Bears, wasn't going well for 3 quarters. We're able to turn it around in the fourth and get that done. But I think again, it's just a matter of, hey, can you of execution? I think the Vikings have shown more of that.
Okay.
I don't see don't see a lot of special teams blunders. I think special teams will be pretty clean.
Chris Boswell's the one.
The Wizard of Boz is one of the few certainties of this Steelers team. So again, gonna be good to see him back out there. I definitely need to pick. His jersey is the next one that I'm getting because that's the one time where I don't feel like I'm having heart palpitations. It's whenever he's on the field. This is going to come back to bite me in about 11 and a half hours, isn't it?
I mean, are we going to have another situation where you're going to get a like when we played the Saints internationally, we're going to get a double doink situation, 60-some yard field goal.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't even know what is Boswell's range, would you say?
I think he can probably reach out to 60. I think because he had, I believe it was from 60 to win the game against the Jets. And I can fact check that briefly.
Yeah.
But he's been kicking for a long time in Heinz Field, which is not an easy place to kick.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's like one of the, like, I think it does it have like the lowest like longest field goal place or like something like that, just because of field conditions.
Specifically towards the open end, it's really difficult to kick. But again,
Oh.
against the Jets, Boswell did hit from both 56 and then 60 to win the game.
Okay.
So his range is good, and so definitely a lot of faith in there.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, we'll see if the Steelers defense does have a lot of high end talent on the defensive side of the ball, but as we've seen through 3 weeks, it's going to make a couple of plays here and there, but ultimately that's not going to it's going to give us opportunities to win, and against better opposition like I think the Vikings are.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be even more crucial that in all facets of the game we execute. And again, just based on what I've seen so far, that's why I'm giving the Vikings the edge. Still hoping for a Steelers win. I still took them in pick'ems.
You took this, but wait, you took the Steelers and pick them.
So
explain yourself.
So my pick'ems philosophy is I will never pick against the Steelers.
Oh, so you're just like Tom, never picks against the Packers. Okay.
My expectation for the game is that at least going in is that I'm giving the Vikings about a 4-point edge.
You're giving the Vikings a 4-point edge. They are currently favored, by the way. I know it's actually 2.5.
2.5. Okay.
So.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Do you think this game would have been different had JJ McCarthy not have gotten injured, or do you think it would have been easier for your defense? I mean, I know he struggled the first 2 games, but I don't know. Do you think maybe I don't know. We don't even know what he would have done against Cincinnati's defense. I mean, do you think it would have been a lot? Do you think it would have been you maybe would have changed your pick if McCarthy was playing instead of Wentz? Or I know it's only been 2 weeks.
Yes. So I think the important caveat there is that we've only seen 2 weeks of JJ McCarthy. Mm-hmm. But I think that kind of based on what we saw in those 2 weeks, I think there definitely would be a cause for concern, and I would definitely give the Steelers a bit of an edge if that were the case. Okay. Just because of I think when you're looking at a rookie kind of coming in facing a level of pressure that the Steelers defense could at least theoretically bring, then that is something to consider versus a veteran like Carson Wentz who can come in, who can nobody's doing. You've obviously got Kevin O'Connell there, who knows how to coach a quarterback. Sam Darnold's still playing well out in Seattle. Obviously, Daniel Jones having a good season down in Indy. Both were on the Vikings roster last year. So I think there's definitely still. I don't know how much it would change, how much I would change the spread by, but I think I would change it a little bit. I think it might be, it might be dead heat. I think I would give the edge, Steelers maybe a 3-point edge. I think maybe it swings by a touchdown, more because of a rookie versus a veteran than necessarily the names of JJ McCarthy and Carson Wentz.
Oh.
But ultimately, that's not the world that we're in, and you got to play the opponent in front of you.
Yeah, and McCarthy, and I mean, it's either. I mean, now that I think about it, when I'm saying the name, we got Kevin O'Connell, very Irish name. McCarthy, very Irish name. But even though we're not playing an Irishman, we are playing a redhead. So, so I mean, you can take one Irish thing out, but we're gonna insert another Irish thing in. So, but just playing around here. But but I sort of I agree with that. That maybe, I mean, I think maybe he would have had a better game against the Cincinnati defense, but against Pittsburgh, I I don't know, especially international. That's gonna be his first time. I know Wentz. I remember him saying he played one international game once. But yeah, and so yeah, and yeah, I mean, he's been around the league a lot. And after that, his first year with, I mean, after after that 1 year with after 2017, I should say. Last time you were, he unfortunately tore his ACL, and it just has never been the same. Again, he's bounced around a lot, so yeah, I mean, and I don't know, how do you? I mean, you guys. I mean, I know you have your rivals and all that, but like, how do you feel about the Philadelphia Eagles? Just on off notes, like,
Yeah,
is there like a state rivalry there, or?
there is definitely a little bit of a state rivalry there. I have a little bit of a connection to it. I have some family from out there. My mom's from the area, but there's definitely an aspect to it where if the Steelers aren't playing the Eagles, I'll be happy to root for them. But if the Steelers are playing the Eagles, then no, I'll throw a cheesesteak in the sewer, or I'll grease some poles outside. I'll put out a Santa and some police horses and hope they don't get assaulted, like all that stuff.
All right.
But yeah, definitely. I'll still there is a bit of a rivalry there, but
there is a bit of a rivalry there. Yeah, yeah. I like if I was and like, I sort of like, just with the whole NFC Championship game, that definitely has a little bit of I get under my skin a little bit. And then if I was an older Viking fan, I'll yeah, that's Super Bowl. Vikings
yeah.
Steelers. Yeah. I mean, just a little I've seen. I mean, the scene from the highlights on them, like, damn, they only scored 16 points and we still freaking lost that game. So yeah. So we're gonna see tomorrow morning. We both have to get up pretty early. I don't know if you're early bird or not. Or
It depends on the day.
it depends on the day.
Decent bit of energy tomorrow. Might have to make a quick run for coffee somewhere that's open on a Sunday morning beforehand, but we'll wait and see. And should hopefully be a good game, and definitely
hopefully a good game for sure, and definitely gonna be one for the ages. So yeah, Aaron Rodgers taking on the Vikings internationally once again, and we'll see how this game all plays out. So I want to. I know I took up more time than I was hoping for.
No, don't worry about it.
Hoping just
you let me yap on. If anything, I should apologize a little bit.
No, you're all good. I mean, these are probably sort of now becoming the average of what I've been doing now. So but I've had much longer. I think Rachel, when we did Vikings Chiefs, that was like two some hours. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's, I mean, we don't play each other that often, so it is nice to always get the chance to and to make some history tomorrow. So, or if you're in Ireland, or if you're in Ireland, well, you're probably sleeping right now, but
it might be
today. So it's today for you guys, unless I don't know, maybe you are up drinking some Guinnesses. But yeah, so
good men and women. Guinness is great.
yes. So, but yeah, thank you again for filling in. Yeah, and I best of luck to you the rest of the season, even though I don't like Aaron Rodgers, that's the hard thing for me.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have I mean, are you just like rocking with? You're just like, hey, this is our guy for the year, or like, are you excited? You're excited about him, or
You
I guess
summed it up pretty well. You summed it up pretty well. He's the quarterback.
he's the quarterback.
It's about
Yeah.
how I feel on it.
Okay.
Specifically on the field. Off the field, I know people have varying opinions on him, and everybody's kind of
Right.
entitled to that.
Yeah.
Don't really read into that too much.
Yeah. I try not to focus on
for
that
this year,
stuff.
he's the quarterback. We'll see how it goes from there, but
we'll see how it goes from there.
Yeah.
Is Steelers going to Super Bowl?
At least in marketing, and at least after they buy tickets.
At least after they buy tickets.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. But again, it's going to be a matter of where does the season end up, and does it end up in that 7 to 10 win window, or do we end up outside of that? And, maybe change stuff up finally.
Maybe you will.
In a wait and see.
Yeah, I'm gonna hope that things do change, because as much as like I like this being going on, and he's keeping above 500, I do wish some change, because I want some different change than seeing the same teams. Like, as much as like, I like, I mean, hopefully, the Bills and, well, maybe not, maybe you're not as fun. Yeah, maybe not as fun, with the Ravens, Bengals, whatever. I'm at least, I just want, more than just like a couple other teams. I want the Steelers to get back into the thing of the string of things. Maybe the Colts, if they can maybe do something in the AFC. So,
I think things could definitely get worse before they get better.
Right.
If at the end of the season this is like all right, we're gonna fully reset. There might be a couple of years where alcohol budgets go up in Allegheny County, but at the end of the day, it's just that's the hope. The goal of every season is to go and win the Super Bowl, and only and 31 teams aren't going to accomplish that goal every year.
That's true.
So it's just a matter of getting there, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we will see indeed what happens. But yeah, I know I already said this is I'm doing like a Midwest goodbye a little bit. But
yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. But again, thank you for coming on last moment. And hopefully I get to see you again in person. Again, whether it is at some type of like maybe next year, 30 and 30, unless you're going to go to the one in Green Bay.
I can do multiple.
You can do multiple.
I can at least try.
So, or Chicago. I mean, depending on where in Wisconsin you are. So, or maybe another. Maybe USA will play at US Bank Stadium once again.
Yeah.
Even though, World Cup's next year. Or whatever. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
We'll wait and see. Of course, yeah. Thank you for having me. I don't know if I can. Can I throw in a plug here? Is that allowed?
Of course you can throw in a plug. Of course you can throw in a plug. I didn't know. I wasn't like, yeah.
Yeah, I got a YouTube channel of my own. If you're interested in checking that out, it's all Steelers content right now, or all mostly Steelers content. It's at Vacant Haddock. Should be a black and gold fish. So should be pretty straightforward to find. As long as you just search up VACANT HADDOCK. Try and stream every Monday night game that I can. Especially since I'm out of market for the Steelers. Haven't been able to stream Steelers games quite as consistently as possible, but again, doing every one there I can, and we'll probably mix in a couple of other primetime ones here and there, just as it comes out. So if that's something that might interest you, definitely would appreciate a quick subscribe. And again, always appreciate it, and we keep on keeping on. And again, thanks for having me on.
Keep on keeping on. I will, after this stream is over. I already pinned it right here. So go subscribe to him. I will also put it in the comment, pin it in the comment section below. The only thing I asked for you this season is to beat Aaron Rodgers. Sorry, not beat the Packers with Aaron Rodgers. Oh my God. See, like my mind is like, okay, my thought
It's just
process
a
is like, okay,
standard response to Aaron Rodgers.
we need to beat
Yep.
we need to beat Aaron Rodgers tomorrow, but
Yep.
after tomorrow, we need you with Aaron Rodgers to beat the Green Bay Packers,
Yep.
if that all is possible. So that's the only thing I ask from you. No, hey, you have to understand, Rebecca. You have to understand. You know, Packers. You've won a lot of Super Bowls. I just want one. You guys, I know it's still been a long time for you guys. Maybe you want to. You're tied with the Patriots right now, so you want
both
that.
of us at 6.
You want that. Just one more. Just one more than the Patriots.
Come on, let us get to 7 first. Don't let the Niners catch up. Don't let the Chiefs catch up. No, we're getting there first. Come on.
And of course, the Cowboys are. Our Cowboys have no chance of catching up.
Until Jerry Jones is no longer the GM.
Right.
I'm not super concerned about that franchise.
Right. So, thank you so much. Hopefully, you get a lot of. Hopefully, you get some sleep tonight and a lot of caffeine in the morning. So, and we will enjoy this historic Dublin game. So,
for sure.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. This has been Adam, and that is Vacant. And as
Mandatory, it's been behind my head this whole time.
I was like, did you have that scar?
Yep. And It's been on the back of my chair. I've been like trying to find a moment where it's like, all right, I can sneak it out and then.
It's just like when at the end, I was like, when I was with Tom and like, and as always, and I said skull, and I'm like, God damn it, and like you wave your terrible Steelers, or like you have your own, like, you know, do you ever go full Yinzer?
I don't have the accent drilled down. I do let out a yins every once in a while. But you know, when it slips out, that's how you know it's been a good time.
Okay, that is good. That is.
Hey, I see that.
So not tree level, not tree level Yinzer, but definitely working with it. So.
Yep.
Alrighty, folks. Have a good night and peace.